The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. At that time, Jesus withdrew to the region of Tyre and Sidon. And behold, a Canaanite woman of that district came and called out, "Have pity on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is tormented by a demon." But Jesus did not say a word in answer to her. The disciples came and asked him, "Send her away, for she keeps calling out after us." He said in reply, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But the woman came and did Jesus homage, saying, "Lord, help me." He said in reply, "It is not right to take the food of the children and throw it to the dogs." She said, "Please, Lord, for even the dogs eat the scraps that fall from the table of their masters." Then Jesus said to her in reply, "O woman, great is your faith. Let it be done for you as you wish." And the woman's daughter was healed from that hour. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Living overseas for many years, as I did in Japan, has many positive aspects to it, but there's also some tough points. Those of you who, for instance, have European roots, Polish, Italian, Irish, German, whatever, French, and if you go to someplace in Europe, you go to Rome or to Paris or wherever, you pretty much fit right in until you open your mouth. But people can't look at you and realize that you're not from that country. If you go to Asia, it's totally different. You don't look like the Asians. Obviously, you don't talk like the Asians. I lived in Japan for 13 years. I was 10 inches taller than most of them. Obviously, my skin was a different color. So they knew immediately that I wasn't Japanese. The Japanese have a term for foreigners. It's gai kokujin, which means a person from a different country. But many times they shorten it to gaijin, which has a very negative connotation to it. It's no longer a person from a foreign country, it means a stranger. And if we think about it, the word foreigner has no negative or positive connotation. Stranger means the person is strange. And so I can tell you many times living in Japan, you would hear people, not because they're rude, because they're not used to seeing foreigners or strangers, or because we don't understand their customs and their traditions and their way of doing things. And even if I spoke Japanese, which I eventually did, I still don't have a Japanese accent. And you'd hear them whisper under their, just very lightly, "Gaiji, there's a foreigner, there's a stranger." Times on the train when going to school or coming back from school, I would find a seat and I would sit down and the person next to me would stand up and walk away because they didn't want to sit next to a stranger. And it happens, it's not because the Japanese are rude, it's just part of their culture. It's a homogeneous country. It's an island. They all look the same. They all speak the same language. So we are different. Jesus deals with a similar situation in today's gospel. In the Gospel of Matthew, which we're reading this year, Jesus is called to the Jewish people. It's called to preach and teach and to the Jewish people. We hear in the second reading from St. Paul that he talks the difference between the Jewish and the Gentiles. The Gentiles are non-Jewish. And St. Paul was the apostle to the Gentiles. And he tells us, St. Paul tells us, both the Jewish and the Gentiles are called to be children of God. So in the gospel, there was this very annoying Canaanite woman who keeps calling out, Jesus, Lord, have mercy on me. Help me. And his disciples, who don't always get it, said, Lord, tell her to go away. She's annoying. And at first, Jesus didn't say anything. And she continued. And she called him Lord, Son of David, admitting that, of course, he was a son of David, a Jewish person. And she didn't want something for herself. She wanted something for her daughter, who was ill, who was, it says, possessed by a demon. And Jesus, who felt called to the Jewish people, said, yes, but you're a Gentile. We don't give food that falls from the table to the dogs. I do, to my dog. And I'm sure many of you do as well. There's a custom, the Canaanites had a custom, they allowed the dogs in their houses. The Jewish people did not. So in order for the dog to get something from the table, you had to get up, open the door, and throw it out to the dog. So Jesus was just pointing out the difference in the traditions. So many differences in the traditions. She had a different religion. She wasn't Jewish. She probably spoke a different language, even though she probably also spoke some Hebrew, and that's how she communicated with Jesus. She looked different. Her face was probably a different color. Perhaps she was dressed different. And as much as we'd like to think that we in America are not racist, if we see somebody that's different than us, many times we have a problem. If you look at, unfortunately, the political season is heating up. It's one of my least favorite times of the year. And political ads on televisions, commercials, and a lot of times they don't talk about the candidate, they talk about what's wrong with the other candidate. And they play the race card, or the religion card, or something else, perhaps the nationality card, to make themselves look better. I hope that we don't do that. I hope that we realize that God's love and God's grace is for all people. The Jewish people, Christians, of which we are, and the Muslims, we all believe in the same one God. It's the same God. We have different names for him. We call him something different, but it's one God. So when we start making racist or comments about the other person's faith or about what they believe or how they look, we're not acknowledging that they too are children of God. So Jesus reminds us very strongly in today's gospel. He felt like in the Gospel of Matthew, he came for the Jewish people. But in the end, he said, woman, your faith in me has saved you, has saved your daughter. That's the most important thing. All of us are children of God. And we need to admit that and acknowledge that even more in our lives, in the way that we act, in the way that we treat others, even in our attitudes, in the way that we think. Oh, here comes another foreigner. No. Oh, here comes another child of God.